Hello and welcome to the Lights Out F1 podcast, and what an episode we've got for you tonight. This is episode 23 from the Brazilian Grand Prix, smoothest operator of my life. As always, the 5 lights on, 5 lights out will kick us off, and we'll talk the biggest talking points from that one. You're not going to want to miss out on what we had to say about Ferrari and their big coming together. I'm sure you've all got opinions on that one. And then after that checkered flag section, we'll cover up all the other little things that we get to talk about. S3 awards, maybe some points you're not going to expect. Rookie watch, and then podium predictions. I am absolutely kicking it at the moment. Can I continue this trend, or will Aussie have a spectacular 5 from 5 as we've got one round to go? And we will finish everything off after the Fantasy League with the sim racing and eSports news. Lots and lots to go about. I hope you enjoy what we're putting together here in the eSports section. We will also go over all the FNL1 eSports action from the Formula 1 and Formula 2 races. Don't forget, if you haven't watched them and you want to check them out, they're available on Facebook and YouTube and Twitch for some time, but if you want to go back even further, they're archived on Facebook, YouTube. Either check us out on FNL1 eSports or on YouTube here at Demo 1 Garage. They're all there, all commentated by yours truly. But yeah, very, very interesting episode to go over. Can't wait. It is episode 23, smoothest operator of my life. Here is where that come from Carlos Sainz after P4. And that's before he knew P3. Enjoy.
Oh, can't believe it, guys.
Scenario 1, mate. Okay. Scenario 1. Unbelievable drive. P20 to P4.
I cannot believe it. As simple as that. Wow! What a drive. Thank you, guys. Perfect execution. Good risk reward. Amazing. Amazing. Thank you, guys. What do you think? Do you think that was a smooth operator?
Smooth operator.
I think that was the smoothest operation of my life.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 23 of the Lights at F1 podcast from the Brazilian Grand Prix, which has just been and gone. As always, Aussie's with me here to talk all things F1. And how are you, bro?
Good evening, Josh. It could be good morning, it could be good afternoon, wherever you are listening to us, whenever it is, whatever time of day it is.
That's the magical thing of podcasts.
That's right, mate.
You can listen to it anytime, anywhere. So I think most of our listeners, there's a big contingency on Stitcher. So don't forget, you can catch us on all the podcast places. Stitcher being one of them, Spotify, Apple, iTunes, Podbean. But yeah, you obviously know that. That's why you're here listening. But yeah, we've got a Grand Prix to talk about, man. Overall, before we get into the main topics, what did you? I think we're starting to give them ratings out of 10 now, aren't we?
We said we might introduce that on a regular basis for next season, but for me, it's got to be a 9.5.
Yeah, I mean, like, what's a 10? A 10's a perfect race. I'd have to give it an 8, I think. A nice, solid 8.
The only reason you're going off, I've got to give it that higher score is just when's the last time we've seen a podium like that? Like,
oh, that's true. I mean, but I'm sort of... I mean, if you isolate that race towards the last 5-6 laps, then it's a 10. But I think... Plus, we had the drama with Ferrari as well. I mean, we had everything.
It was good.
I know. It was almost perfect. Maybe I should bump that up to 9. I think maybe I was being a little bit too harsh. Apparently, Codemasters don't like my review scores either. So,
do you know that watching the race, maybe 30% into the race, 35% in, I started getting a feeling that here we go, it's going to be another one of these races where it's going to build up, and then it's just going to fizz out how the last couple have been, because we had all these different tyre strategies going on where we had hards, softs, mediums. It was all looking really juicy.
Yeah.
And I was just telling myself, don't get too pumped, just wait. But, oh, geez, we knew nothing what those last 10 laps were going to be like, did we?
Nah, I mean, safety car, people sometimes say, oh, if it wasn't for the safety car, we would have had a boring race. But we had a safety car, you can't deny the fact. Because we could play the what-if game for every single Grand Prix we've had this season. And
Just
every season past.
Just maybe NASCAR does know what they're doing, eh?
Well, safety cars breed safety cars.
The way they just throw that safety car out just to bunch the field up. And that's probably the last racing in the series who needs to throw a fake safety car out.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think there was a good reason for it, though, with the crane truck exposed out on track, because we don't want a repeat of Suzuka. So I'd have to say that's why they called it.
Well, you brought it up, so I may as well just quickly discuss that, because I was dumbfounded why we actually got a safety car thrown, because Bottas seemed like he put his car in a perfect position where it was right in the exit gate there, where it looked like all they had to do was just pull the car back. But
maybe it was a little bit on a slope and a bit bumpy there. I don't know if they were just struggling to push it, but yeah, it was a bit... I did find it odd, but I thought maybe there's an incline we can't really see.
It took forever.
I don't know if it took that long, because then you remember Stroll fucking spun off as well, so that added to the safety car time.
Did that add to it, you think?
Yeah.
They just... Oh, okay,
I'm pretty sure that
right.
added to it. Plus they had... oh no, that was the Ferrari one, but they had a whole bunch of debris as well to clear for that. Anyway, we're going to talk about that one in more detail later. But yeah, the safety car, interesting. That's what I saw from it.
Definitely spiced things up. Let's put it that way.
So a 9 from you and a revised 9 from me. I think that's pretty decent going for what we had. But let's get into the main meaty part. 5 lights on, 5 lights out section. And number 1 is Max Verstappen and the speed he managed to utilise in that Red Bull and his Honda Power his weekend. It was just a dream come true for him.
Mate, we had Mexico, and this weekend we had MAXspeed in Interlagos, that's for sure. I mean, there was no stopping those Red Bulls. The only thing that was going to stop Max Verstappen from winning this weekend was Ocon, and he wasn't there.
No. We go back to, was it 2016 where he was in the wet around here?
Yep.
I don't want to digress too far, but we are talking about Max. Now, a lot of people consider that probably one of his best drives, or the best drive of the day at least. But a lot of people were, this week in the lead up to the event, were sort of going, it wasn't that good from Max in 2016. But it was wet for one. He was, what was he like? He was like 12 years old when he was doing that race.
Yes. Well, for me, that race was the moment when it was like, almost like, okay, Max has arrived, because like, as you know, it's always the case. It doesn't matter what power you have. In the wet is when the drivers who can really drive shine. Yeah.
I just wanted to bring that up because I saw a lot of people going, oh, Max, it's sort of an overrated drive from him at Interlagos, but I just thought maybe they're looking at it from the eyes of Max Verstappen in 2019, not a 2016 Max Verstappen who was still bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and, you know, ready to take... And he was, like I said, he was 12 years old, so it was just, anyway, just something I thought I'd bring up briefly before we carry on to the topic of the Brazil in 2019.
No, well, I'm just saying I found that odd, and I mean, just so the listeners know that we know he wasn't really 12 years old.
Just so you know. Yeah, it's hyperbole. Go Google that word.
Mate, he got pole position. He didn't talk himself out of this one. He kept his mouth shut.
No. He learned his lesson.
So, he had a perfect start. That Red Bull, that Honda, I mean, we all know what I said at the start of the season, and I wasn't jumping on the bandwagon. But
yeah, you said they had to prove themselves, but I think this is sort of
proven themselves now. Like, judging by the speed they had this weekend alone, you'd almost argue that they are the most powerful engine on the grid right now. Like, that's what it seemed like. That's what it looked like. I know the Mercs were suffering, but even Gasly in the Toro Rosso, that drag race to the finish line with Hamilton, he out-dragged Hamilton.
Yeah, that wasn't 2019 Formula One. That was... I couldn't believe what I was seeing when I saw that.
So
it was good to see
that
though.
Honda is super impressive this weekend. I mean, they've done some upgrades, they've done some things. Now, if I was Vettel or Leclerc, I know they had their hands full with their own issues, but I thought they had the perfect opportunity to say that Red Bull's cheating.
Oh yeah, of course they did. I didn't even think of that. They should have come out all 100% on that one. Guns blazing.
Maybe this is the reason why Red Bull were asking the question about, bringing up the thing about what Ferrari's doing, and now they're doing it.
Yeah, was it a sort of like a false flag operation where they pretend that they've discovered something, ask FIA for clarification, but it's them asking for themselves, and then so they've just blamed Ferrari because it just so happened that Ferrari lost the power wherever they were at Coda, and they were like, perfect, this is the weekend we do it.
But I mean, he did have a good race.
He
passed Lewis Hamilton twice for the victory.
He's qualifying too. His pace in qualifying was just phenomenal.
I'm just telling you, that Red Bull was a monster car this weekend.
Yeah, and there's something I want to talk about Max, and I keep forgetting that he did it. I just know that he won the race. Oh, yeah. There's the statistic that it's... I mean, we mentioned this earlier in the year, but his second career pole from qualifying. That's his... Do you know what I mean? Like, we'd expect Verstappen to have at least 15 of them at the moment.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah, well, he only just got his first pole, wasn't it, in Hungary this year? And then... Yeah,
because I remember us talking about it going, what? That doesn't seem right.
And he talked himself out of the one in Mexico.
Yeah, he almost had his second one there.
So he could have had 3 this year, but... And then you look at someone like Leclerc, who's got 7 poles.
I know, but Leclerc's... You must say he's had a pretty good car this year.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, if Max was in that car, I'm sure Max would have 7 too.
The thing is, Daniel Ricciardo tended most of the time they were together, he was on top of Max. And then towards the probably halfway through last year, Max started getting the better of Ricciardo when things started going south over there at Red Bull.
Yeah, well, I'd imagine if you're Ricciardo and whatever was happening behind the scenes, you sort of lose a bit of drive and passion to succeed for the team that employs you, because I'm sure that can't be good.
No, but I mean, you're right in that it is a little bit surprising with like how long. Well, I think I heard, was this Max's 100th race? Oh yeah, he started at 17.
He's had 101 starts, so there you go.
That's what I thought.
8 wins, 30 podiums, 2 pole positions, and 7 fastest laps. He started in 2015.
And well, he's just proving why Red Bull have put their eggs in the one basket with Max, and he is the man.
Damn straight, he's the man. He's the future of Formula One, as far as I'm concerned. Well, he's one of them anyway. And I don't think it's going to be long before we see him winning a Formula One World Championship in years to come. Who knows? It could be 2021.
I feel like the only thing that's going to stop Max from achieving his potential is his dad. Because remember earlier on this year, just after the summer break, his dad's piping up about how Red Bull haven't made any progress, they haven't got any upgrades, and he's just a sour sack.
Yeah,
it's just unnecessary talk.
How much say does Jos Verstappen have at Red Bull? It can't be much, really.
No, well, how much say does he have over his son?
Yeah, that's an interesting question to put forward. Is Jossie's manager?
I believe so, yes.
Right, so he'd have a big say. But I don't know. I do agree. It's paying off right now. They're it's paying dividends at the moment. The Honda Power, it's proven itself already. So
Well,
just a bit more
can't-
patience.
Well, he's not going to go to Ferrari.
Not a chance.
I mean, what are you going to have? If Vettel leaves, you're going to have Max and Leclerc there. I don't think that's going to happen.
We'll just get another situation like we've got now.
And he's never going to go to Mercedes while Hamilton's there.
No. And he's not a number 2, so
So that ain't going to happen.
No.
So where's he go?
he stays at Red Bull. He's the number 1. Albon's the number 2. And that's as simple as that, I think.
I think that's exactly what Albon is going to be. Just we've said it before, he's going to be the perfect number 2 for Max Verstappen.
Yeah, Albon might get his chance in a couple of years, though. You never know. Because he's still young enough that things are going to change. And if he's consistent the way he stayed consistent this season and carries that through, he could very well be vying for a championship title at some point as well.
Possibly.
I think he's got it in him. I think he's just one of those dark horses that we all sort of forget about every now and then. But I think he's got the ability.
I don't know. We'll see. Maybe he's just one of these guys who's just too nice to ever be a champion anyway. You know?
Maybe. Who knows?
But I guess we will be discussing a bit more of Albon later on. But as far as Max's race goes and Brazil goes and Red Bull goes, it was a totally dominating weekend.
The strategy call from them as well was a big call.
When he came in on the last safety car?
That as well. And just the call to wait for Mercedes to react and, you know, try not be victim to an over or an undercut at any point.
Yeah, well, I even heard Christian Horner. I mean, that they were always gonna. It's a no-brainer for them to pit when he was leading at that stage because they knew that Mercedes were going to do whatever opposite to whatever they did.
Oh, the safety car situation.
Because he said, you know, that's what we would do. But
yeah.
I don't know about that. I kind of feel like maybe Hamilton should have pitted with Max and at least chucked on a fresh set of boots.
Yeah, because
to give himself maximum chance.
I mean, track position isn't a huge deal at Interlagos. Like, that middle sector is almost impossible to overtake, but there's some very long straights, especially that front one coming up to turn 1, up the hill. Plenty of opportunity to get a slipstream, use the DRS and brake late, because it happens. That's the biggest overtaking point there is turn 1 in turn 4 as well.
Yeah, well, that was their only chance, but I mean, it didn't obviously work out for Hamilton, but it is what it is, and Max Verstappen took the victory at Interlagos quite easily, you'd have to say.
Yeah. I mean, he was helped on early on with Hamilton and Vettel sort of tussling and hustling for that second spot, because it sort of gave Max a bit of room to manoeuvre and make a bit of a gap early on, which probably helped him open up that gap in the first stint, I think. And from there, it was just continuing on with the fast race consistency and not making shitty errors and locking up, etc.
What all this comes down to is, let's just hope this form continues on to next year. I mean,
yeah, it's a shame it's happened right at the end. It really has.
Here we are in the second last race of the year, and it's just been an amazing race. Red Bull have found some real form. We were expecting something like this after the summer break, and it didn't quite pan out, as we all know. But traditionally, Red Bull always start the season slow. So let's hope that they take this, because there's not much changing really for next year. So let's hope they take this into next year. It seems like they've at the very least got parity with Mercedes and Ferrari at the moment. Like, how awesome would it be if we got to Australia and we actually had 3 teams fighting for the win? That's how the season started. Because I've said all along what a dominant season this has been for Mercedes, but it's a bit of a weird dominant season, don't you think?
They've sort of just been there at the races either to dominate or to pick up the pieces when everyone else is falling around them. They just... I don't know if their R&D has sort of propelled them any further forward since race 1 in Melbourne.
Well,
It
I
doesn't
just think-
seem like it. Everyone seems to have caught up to them.
Well, I guess that's the beauty when the rules don't get changed so much, you know. It gives a chance for the teams to finally catch up. And now next year we are going to have these teams at least on engine parity, so which is a good thing that they're not changing too much with the engines for 2020. But as we know, the whole car's pretty much changing, so we'll see who develops or comes out with the best ideas.
Yeah. And one last thing I would like to mention was his safety car restart there, where he was just taken to the very last moment because he just did not want to give away that slipstream. And that's just the sort of thinking that I know a lot of other race car drivers possess as well, but Max used it to defend his lead at that moment in time. So I think that's just another thing about Max Verstappen that is just championship material there.
Yeah, we'll put it, if you're comparing apples with apples, Lewis had the safety car restart before that one, and Max definitely did it better than Lewis. I mean, Lewis generally is pretty good on these safety car restarts, but
Yeah.
I feel like this weekend Max did the better job.
And on that one where I think Hamilton was third at the time, he was caught sleeping.
Yeah.
He was lucky not to fall even further down the field. Anyway. Yeah, now light 2 of the 5 lights out, we have Ferraris coming together, lap 66. It's a bit of an omen there. They just needed one more 6 on the end of that.
The firework moment of the weekend. And I mean, as always, you and I haven't discussed this previously, so this is the first time we're actually discussing the incident.
It was such a small touch as well. Like,
It was barely nothing, wasn't it?
I know, and we've seen much bigger touches this season, much, more direct contact with wheels and front wings, and nothing's happened. And here we go. It's just set it all off at Ferrari coming into the last race, and I'm bloody loving the story now. It just reminds me of Hamilton Rosberg. It's just so good to see this sort of shenanigans back.
Look, here we are in the second last race of the year. Don't you think that this incident alone just pretty much sums up Ferrari's season?
Yeah, it's just been them tripping over themselves. It's a perfect metaphor. Yeah.
Along with the bad luck and just everything that goes, I just feel like this incident alone, taking all blame out of it, it just encompasses Ferrari's entire season. Like, it's not, it wasn't for the win. They're tussling over the last podium spot here with a few laps left in the race, and they get nothing.
I know. I mean, we will talk about the incident itself, but on social media, holy hell, it was either you have been a supporter of Sebastian Vettel and you're just going to stand behind him no matter what, or you were part of the Tifosi. You now see Sebastian Vettel as the villain. You hate him. He needs to be gone from Ferrari. And, I get the feeling there's a lot of haters of Vettel, of Ferrari fans that now hate Vettel here.
Well, I think what happens with social media is when an incident like this happens, then you don't just have people, as you say, Ferrari fans now hating on Vettel, but you get all the Max Verstappen fans who hate Vettel. You get all the Hamilton fans who hate Vettel. They all jump on the bandwagon and just, kind of like put the boot in while he's down sort of thing.
Yeah.
While
I don't know.
I've got an opportunity.
I was seeing some very emotionally charged posts from some Tifosi, and they were like, Vettel was he's Satan, basically. He's never done anything good for the team. They just want him gone. And I don't know if it's, I don't know, like, apart from who we blame in the incident itself, but I don't think it's all Vettel's fault that this is all happening. Like Leclerc has some blame here. With the whole situation and all the drama and the fighting and it should be me up front or I need the slipstream. Like that bullshit.
I think Vettel has just disappointed a lot of people, and people can't get over some of the things that happened last year. I was having a conversation, and if you say that Vettel lost the championship last year, you'd have to say Ferrari have lost the championship this year for him, not Vettel.
No. A lot of... How many times have we come here on a Tuesday night and go, wow, what the frick were Ferrari thinking with the strategy? How many times have we said that this year? And
that's where Mercedes wrapped up the title so easily, so early, because Ferrari just kept tripping over themselves and Ferrarying themselves.
Yeah. They did.
So, you can't blame Vettel for this year, what happened. Now,
no,
the incident itself...
I love Ferrari. And I love both of them, but at the moment I'm sort of leaning towards the Leclerc needs to calm down a bit.
Okay, I'm very surprised to hear that from you, actually. I expected you to totally be the opposite. I thought I was in the minority with my opinion because, the incident itself, if anyone doesn't know, what is it, turn 1, 2, coming down to turn 3, Vettel was re-overtaking Leclerc after Leclerc took him into turn 1.
And he was trying to squeeze him.
And he overtook Leclerc on the outside, just to paint the picture, and he was, at best, you'd call it veering to the left. He didn't turn left. He was squeezing. The intention was to squeeze Leclerc out of it, but...
I think Rosberg described it best, because he briefly explained it, and he said basically, you're the car in front, you're the dominant car, you control the thing. The first thing you want to do is squeeze the other car as the best you can. So,
and he was a fair way in front. Like, they weren't side by side. At least 3/4 of Vettel's car was ahead of Leclerc.
Yeah.
So he started slowly. Even if you look on the onboard, there's no real distinct left-hand turn from Vettel's steering wheel. It's just slightly veering.
Yeah.
Now, if we're not going to call it a racing incident, first and foremost,
I did.
It was freaking unlucky, man.
Oh,
Just that slight touch and the way, at that instant, the second they touched, Leclerc's tyre just comes off his rim, flaps around, breaks his suspension.
I know. You do that.
Vettel gets a flat tyre in the rear left, spins off. Both Ferraris finished, gone, done.
I reckon you have that same scenario a million times and it would never happen again.
Oh, it was one of those things. It was meant to be.
Yeah. So we've got the beauty of hindsight. Where do you sort of put the blame, so to speak?
Well, I've had
how do you see the whole thing as it played
I've had a long debate over this, but I still stand by what I said then, and I'll say it now. And as I said, you and I haven't discussed it before. If I have to apportion blame, I probably have to say, look, it's really hard. Like, I'm very happy to call it a racing incident, but you almost have to apportion blame to someone. And I almost want to say Leclerc's more at fault than Vettel.
Right.
Like, I'm saying, yes, his intention was to squeeze Leclerc out of it, but he was a fair way in front. So
yeah.
I feel like he had every right to do that.
Yeah. Now,
Leclerc could or should have seen Vettel coming across, and he'd been taken at this point. Like, they weren't side by side, so he'd clearly been overtaken at this point.
Mm-hmm.
If he still didn't want to accept that he was overtaken, I don't see why he couldn't have veered a little bit left as well and then broke late into the corner trying to reclaim the apex. But he chose to stay straight and the contact happened. So I'm saying that I feel like Leclerc could have avoided the situation more than what Vettel could have, because Leclerc would have had a better view of it because he was the car behind, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a really tough one, but it's definitely spicing things up at Ferrari.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, for me, I feel like Vettel did it just out of reaction because he's a race car driver. He's in front. He's just going to start squeezing regardless. I would just call it one of those racing incidents things and mark it down as that and just say it was a 50-50. I think Leclerc could have done more to avoid it, and I think at the same time, like Vettel wasn't overly aggressive about it. Like you said, there was no obvious turning into him or anything like that. It's just what happens while you're trying to defend a position on track, and it was just everything that could go wrong bloody went wrong.
Yeah, but what if my fence is a 240-volt electric fence and you can't sit on it? Who are you blaming?
Whoever sits on the fence.
No.
Why would you sit on the fence?
So, who are you blaming in this incident?
I'd probably have to go more with... probably Vettel.
Oh, that's... I thought you would.
Yeah, it's not that... I don't know. I just think his race reaction to squeeze the car out was what caused it.
But they all do it, right? That's what you do when you overtake the car. As you said, even Rosberg said it. Yeah, that's what you do. I'm
not blaming him for doing that, but I'm just saying, you know, if it's a teammate next to you and their margins are so small, why do you play those? Why do you take those risks at that point? That's why I think it was his fault, because it was just muscle memory for Vettel. He just wanted to do it, you know. And
look, just as much as Vettel had to do that, because that's just what you do as a racing driver, and it's been, you know, posted so many times, you know, it's Turkey again with Webber. Exactly the same thing happened, right? Yeah. And we all know where that relationship went after that race, and I have a feeling this relationship between the two drivers and the dynamic is headed in the very same direction.
Who do Ferraris support more now? Do they side with Leclerc because he's had a little bit more success, or do they stay with Vettel?
Yeah, I don't know, because it's a very tough one. I mean, they're still paying Vettel the big bucks, like big bucks. They're not paying, you know, chicken feed here.
No,
so
it's not the chaff.
He is still technically the number one driver, even if not in a lot of fans' eyes.
No, a lot of people have disowned him.
So, but just going back to the incident for a second, I just wanted to say that, you know, to almost counteract what I'm saying in the very slight defense of Vettel, is that I understand why he did it, and it's just a natural reaction, as you said. But on the same hand, I understand why Leclerc didn't give ground either, because he's like, no, you're not going to put it over me. I'm holding my ground. So I understand where he's coming from as well, but this is the thing where what Binotto's got to deal with now is like, you guys have got to sort this shit out. We can't have this every race, you know?
Yeah. No. And they're losing points, and it's costing them money at the end of the day.
I actually like the dynamic that this is bringing now. Like, as you said, you're liking the story after it.
Yeah, I love the drama.
I'm loving the fire in Vettel now, because, you know, 6 months ago we were all talking about Vettel might retire at the end of this year. He might, you know, he's not loving Formula One. You know, he's had enough.
Yeah, we were.
What's he going to do? Where's he going to go? But with only one race left now, I really wish we had freaking 8 more races left in this season.
I know.
So now they have one more race next week in Abu Dhabi, and then they go off on a holiday, then they come back to testing, and we go again. And this dynamic, and just knowing Vettel and what a prick he can be when he wants to be, I just feel like it's just lit a fire in his belly, which I'm excited to see what's going to come from it.
Yeah, Vettel's not going to let this one slide. No, sirree. And I too am excited, and I've got this. I can't wait to record everything that happens, because you're going to want to watch it back.
In discussing and dissecting and talking about this incident, over the last couple of days, I've come to a realization, because I've been saying it for a while now, because I always find myself defending Vettel.
Yeah.
And then I've thought back to even back to when Senna versus Prost. I was watching Formula One then, and as a fan, or me personally as a fan, in those situations, as it's playing out in front of you, I feel like you need to pick a side, and I chose Senna over Prost. So I never really liked Prost because Senna was my man.
Yeah.
Then you move on, you look at the battles that have happened, and then fast forwarding to recent times, Vettel versus Webber. I freaking hated Vettel. I chose Webber.
Yeah.
I
I did too. Now, I hated Vettel then too.
And then you got Max versus Ricciardo. I chose Ricciardo. I can't say I hated Max, but I chose Ricciardo, and now that they're not teammates, I actually like Max, a lot more than I did when they were together.
Yeah.
Now, between Vettel and Leclerc, even though I chose Webber over Vettel, now I choose Vettel over Leclerc.
I'm the same.
So it's just an interesting dynamic. I've realised how I view the racing.
Yeah. I mean, and the other thing is, I used to really like Leclerc, and now I'm starting to get a little bit frustrated with him, disliking him at times now.
Well, that's. I was talking to our mate Zen about this, and I just find Leclerc, and I've said to you before on the podcast even, I just find him a bit boring with the robotic answers he gives. I just find him to not really have much not character, but no charisma. He doesn't. I just don't find him exciting. Right. I guess, as when he's being interviewed, and we're seeing all these youngsters come through, and he always seems to just give the same old answers. I have to learn from this, and we have to look at this. And
he does do that, yeah.
And I just find that annoying, and I'm probably putting a lot of people offside, and it's probably not a popular opinion, but it is the way I feel.
Yeah. I mean, with Leclerc at the moment, I just feel like he's just asking... he hasn't earned what he's asking for yet. Yes, he's had some really good results and he's had some victories, but I still don't think he's earned what he's asking of the team right now. It's his first year. Yes, he's won some races, but that doesn't entitle you to, platinum status straight away. You've got to prove yourself these things, and sometimes I feel in the real life too that's just there's younger people out there that they just want, and they're not prepared to put the work in. That sounds really harsh because he's put in a lot of work, but that's the feeling I get.
Well, I just feel like next year is going to be a real telling point in Leclerc's
career
future. Yeah, in his future, because he could very well come out and just smack Vettel to kingdom come. Who knows?
If that happens, I can't wait.
Yeah, he just might. But if he does that, I'll say well done to him, and I'll totally respect his achievements on track. Just like I've voiced my opinion plenty of times where I'm not necessarily a Hamilton fan, but I totally respect him, right?
Yeah.
And it goes through in the history of F1. There's always drivers like that. Some you really warm to and you really support and love, and others not so much,
Yeah.
But if they're achieving and getting the results on track, just because you don't necessarily like that guy, you can't diss him for his achievements, is what I'm saying. So at this point,
yeah, I know what you're saying.
I have to say I'm choosing Vettel over Leclerc, but we'll see what happens next year. And let's not forget, Vettel has helped Leclerc out a couple of times this year. I can't see that happening next year anymore.
No, not unless there's some huge... Even if the big boss Benotto gets on the radio and tells him, I don't even think he's going to listen then. So, yeah, I really can't wait to see what we get in 2020 after this.
Hey, man, maybe he's just totally matured and he just really is the father figure of Ferrari now, and maybe he'll just take Leclerc under his wing, and who knows?
Oh, who knows? Anything could happen. But yeah, let us know what you think. There's a lot of opinions out there. I'd really like to hear what some of you guys have thought about it, especially after what we've shared and our opinions too. So don't hate on us, but we'd like to get a discussion going anyway. So anyway, that's light number 2, and what a light it was. Light number 3, let's just talk Mercedes. And the first one was Toto. He was missing. And so was the results for Mercedes. Coincidence, you ask?
Well, I was thinking about this, and actually one of our listeners, Trent Menzies, he asked me the question with Toto not there, and he said the other race that Toto wasn't at this year was Germany, and he said, which is another race where Mercedes failed. So now we have to say, is this coincidence or is it fact? Like,
maybe Toto's that really strict boss that when he's not there, everyone just plays up, slacks off a bit. It could be right.
Germany was a weekend for Mercedes to forget.
Yeah. And
this one ended up pretty much a weekend that they won't really take much highlights from.
No, like one of the big eye-opening ones was the strategy they put Bottas on early on with the hards. I mean, 11 laps on the hard tyre, that seemed like a waste.
That still confuses me. Why he came on the hard tyre and then they pitted him after 11 laps. I mean, was he that slow at the time? Because Sainz made the hard tyre work. I believe Ricciardo was on the hard tyre for quite a while too, wasn't he?
Ricciardo, yeah, I'm pretty sure Ricciardo was.
Yeah. So it was obviously working enough, but just after 11 laps when they pulled him in, I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I just don't know what they were thinking. It was... And then, I mean, Hamilton himself was asking for the mediums. Is it just that they couldn't get the hards to work the way they would like them to? Is it just tyre compounds again?
The Mercs actually never seem to work good on the hards. It is a tyre that doesn't really work on that car.
Right. I suppose that is a...
There is a history there.
Yeah.
But when's the last time a Merc engine went bang too? In an actual Mercedes F1? I mean, last one I can think off the top of my head has to be Hamilton at Malaysia. Was it 16 or 17 when he blew his engine? 16?
I feel like he had one at the Red Bull Ring, or he had it at Catalonia. It was one of those tracks.
So, Toto not there. Engine goes bang. They don't get a podium. Well, he kind of got one, but then it got taken away.
Yeah, well, that... Oh, we'll talk about that when we go to the steward decisions. But yeah, that did get it taken away from him in the end. 5 seconds. He didn't look particularly... I think he knew something was going to happen on the podium. He didn't look particularly impressed being there in third.
Well, he totally took the blame.
Yeah, which is good to see. I mean,
our next light was going to be the stewards' decisions through the weekend, so I guess we can start on that here because it's the Hamilton incident with Albon.
Yeah, we can start with that one.
Where he dived inside of Albon in the middle, sector 2 there, into the right-hand hairpin. First of all, I have to ask you, as I always do, what did you think of that incident?
When you play it next to the penalty Ricciardo got, 5 seconds was the right call. Only because that meant consistency with the stewards' decisions. Otherwise, personally, I called it as a racing incident. That's just what happens.
So you did blame Hamilton for the incident?
No, it's a racing incident for me. Just shit happens.
Okay.
I only think the stewards made the right call because the call they made with Ricciardo. It kept the stewarding decisions consistent. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying with the because he hit a car, they had to give him 5 seconds. But
in that situation, it was. I don't think Ricciardo was at fault because his car was locked up, and when your bloody tyres aren't under rotating, you can't turn the car. So he had absolutely no hope of avoiding contact there. And
Okay, so I'm totally opposite to you on that decision there, because you can't say it's not Ricciardo's fault, because, I mean, his foot is the one on the brake pedal to start with, so he's locking his car up, and he's the one who had to put his left tyres onto the curb, which is where he lost the grip. So I feel like Ricciardo put himself in that position, which resulted in the contact. With Albon and Hamilton, my personal opinion is, again, maybe quite surprising to some people, is that I feel like Hamilton definitely dove into the gap, but the door was wide open. I thought, anyone would have dived in there, because Albon just left the door way open. So it was like, what's Hamilton going to do? Of course he's going to go for it. And then all of a sudden, Albon just cut straight across him to the apex. He should have, if he went out that wide, and with Hamilton coming in there, Albon should have taken a wider line, I feel like. He didn't give Hamilton anywhere to go.
Yeah, I just feel that you don't overtake there. That was a stupid point to overtake, and he was always going to connect with you back on the apex like that.
This is where I think...
I just felt like it was both of those were racing incidences for me anyway.
With Albon, I feel like, I don't know what your thoughts are on his race, but the first half of the race, it was just kind of like, meh. He was there, just going around and around. He wasn't really doing much.
Something break.
I don't know what that was. Something dropped. But
Got podcast ghosts.
Sorry, I was talking. I don't know what that was. Anyway,
You're haunted.
yeah, something. So yeah, I just thought the first half of Albon's race was a bit meh, and then after the safety cars, he really came alive. He got up into second place there and totally redeemed himself for me.
Right.
And then we had that incident with Hamilton, and if I'm apportioning blame, I personally apportion the blame on Albon, and I thought he should have just thought about it a bit more, and it was the inexperience. I feel like even he himself admitted that he didn't expect Hamilton to jump down the inside there. But with a few laps to go, you've got a 6-time world champion behind you, you should expect something. Like,
I don't know. In the interview, he was sort of expecting it to happen. He just sort of didn't know if there was going to be room or not, and he just took the risk, and it didn't pay off. But for me, anyway, the 5-second penalty call was the right decision to make when you pair it up with the decision they made with Ricciardo, because I don't think Ricciardo deserved 5 seconds.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm totally opposite to you. I would say, yes, Ricciardo gets a 5-second penalty for the reasons that I explained earlier, and more so he deserves a 5-second penalty because he actually ruined Magnussen's race. And I feel like when I heard Hamilton got the 5-second penalty, on the one hand I was stoked for Sainz, but on the other hand I was like, that's ridiculous. I would never have given that 5-second penalty to Hamilton.
Right, but would you agree because we've always been asking for consistency with the stewarding decisions, that kept it consistent?
No, not necessarily, because I don't say just because you give one driver a 5-second penalty, you should give the next one who makes contact. You still need to take each incident on its own. Like, you can't just give a blanket.
Obviously,
yeah.
But we always do this where we go, oh, such and such did that, and they got a 10-second penalty, and he did exactly the same thing, and he only got a drive-through or whatever. So,
but
we're
that's
always
that's
doing
the
that.
thing where I agree with you, and I would say if it was the exact same thing, but I feel like it wasn't.
Right.
So that was my thoughts on it.
Well, I mean, Hamilton spun Albon, Ricciardo spun Magnussen, so the spinnee or the spinner gets the penalty. Just simplifying it.
Yes,
Yeah.
you are. But I'm saying that Ricciardo spun Magnussen and Albon spun himself on Hamilton.
Right. Well, it'll be very interesting to have us two in the stewards' room.
That's right.
Yeah.
So,
Anyway.
I'm saying, like, look, put it this way: if the championship was still on the line, there is no way Hamilton goes for that gap. He will just sit there. He will say, "I'm taking third. I'm happy with that."
Oh yeah, every day
But
of
he's
the
got
week.
absolutely nothing to lose. The gap is wide open. The door is there. The door, like, Albon's holding the door open for him. 100% he's going to go for the gap. And this is where Albon should have thought, shit, I'll just let him go and I'll still be third and I'll still have my first podium.
Yeah.
But obviously he couldn't calculate all that stuff quick enough.
Oh, he'll have his day eventually. So
Let's hope, yes.
yeah. The other weird one was the Kubica unsafe release. It was so weird when I saw Verstappen in the pits because, like, in the foreground you could see the Williams team working on the car, and something in my head was like, they're going to release him in front of Verstappen here, and they're gonna screw him up. And I sort of, it happened. I don't know why he was released, because they were a lap behind at this point now, and I don't know what Williams were thinking there.
It really was just ridiculous, wasn't it?
Yeah, they weren't racing anyone, so...
I mean, they were so lucky that Max managed to avoid Kubica.
Oh, he, like, millimeters... Like, it could have been another bloody... Could have been a 2018 all over again. With Ocon.
If and buts, but if that did happen, if they actually had made contact and Max was out of the race,
oh man,
what does he do? Does he punch out Kubica or does he go punch on with the whole pit crew?
There would have been riot police holding that man back.
Because in this instance, it's not Kubica's fault. He's just going when he's told to go.
Yeah, I don't blame Kubica at all. Because you see a green light, you go. Because they always talk about the limited visibility, and I'm sure it's hard to see, but that's what the
it was just crazy
on the buttons job is. So yeah, I'm not surprised.
See, that one, hands down, 100%. Give a 10-second penalty. I don't care, because that was just dumb. I mean, again though, with the 5-second penalty that Kubica got, I think just the team is the one who needs to really suffer here. I think they do get a small monetary fine, but it's nothing really worth mentioning, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, unsafe releases, the penalty for that seems unfair, but it's a team sport at the end of the day, so it's not that we're penalising the driver. Every time we penalise the car, we're penalising the team. It just so happens such and such was driving it.
And look, to be totally facetious here, what are you penalising Kubica? He's 5 seconds more last than last.
That's a good point.
So it doesn't really matter if they gave him a 1 hour penalty.
Nah, it really wouldn't have changed things in the long run. Because he's been out-qualified every single race, I think, by Russell.
It was just lucky that Max did not make contact there.
Yeah, it's so lucky. So lucky. Anyway, that wraps up 4 lights, because Mercedes and the steward decisions we wrapped up in multi-pack. But the last one, the announcement that Formula 1 aims to be carbon neutral by, I think it's sustainable by 2025. Now, I wanted to talk about it because I saw both sides of the opinion on this one.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that the people that were like, oh, this is terrible, were thinking that this is going to ruin Formula 1. You are sort of on that line of thinking. No?
No, I'm not on the line of thinking that it's going to ruin Formula 1. I'm just thinking that my line of thinking is that Formula 1 announcing this, it's just totally unachievable in the near future, because I think they said 2025, did they?
Yeah, they want to be fully sustainable by 2025.
Be fully carbon net neutral by 2025. I think that's a pipe dream, unless they're going to, as a few people said, come up with nuclear power.
Yeah, I think Zen said that one.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So it's not going.
Yeah, well, for me, like, I just got the feeling that people were like, "Oh, this is." It was clearly a reaction to what Hamilton said, I think, which is that all the better. I think this is a good thing, But whether or not it's achievable, at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to ruin F1. And if they do achieve this net neutral status, carbon zero goal, then good on them. Because then, I don't know, because they're going to start using biofuel, 10%. They're going to start putting that in. And some makes, obviously, changes with travel and transport and all that sort of stuff. So if they can, I don't know, develop a biofuel that, I don't know, is less harmful at the end of the day, I don't think that's a terrible bad thing, because a lot of technology can come from Formula One. Maybe this will, accelerate that.
Look, I probably show my age in my thinking when it comes to this sort of stuff, but I definitely get the side of the argument where something is better than nothing, 100%. Like, I'm not saying let's blow the world up tomorrow. Like, obviously, if there's something you can do to try and save the environment, 100% go for it. But at the end of the day, Formula One is about the dollar. It is a motor racing series. And it's not just about the cars. There's so much that encompasses this. Like, look at the ridiculous motorhomes that they carry around from race to race. All the transport involved just there. And then, it's all about the glitz and glamour. So they might cut here, but then they'll go and spend more there. So that's why I just feel like this is just a non-conversation, really. Like, I don't know.
I think the big thing is, because what they want to do is they want to wipe out their carbon footprint by creating synthetic fuel. So, like, if you get all these big companies pouring money into synthetic fuel, then when eventually, we won't be alive, but eventually when all fossil fuels are gone, Formula One can live on still with these synthetic fuels that, that were developed probably very basic here in 2020, 2021.
Yeah, but you're saying about, that's going to make them carbon zero with the synthetic
it won't
fuel.
make that, like,
but
the
there's
fuel
so
alone.
much more. There's so much more to it. That's what I'm saying. Just all those trucks, semi-trailers, like I said, just carrying these motorhomes from race to race. It's not even just the fuel that those trucks are burning, but the manufacture of those trucks, the carbon footprint alone left from the manufacture of these things that Formula One are buying. Like, it's such a massive chain reaction, and I feel like I'll just be arguing, but at the same time, I understand you got to do something. That's why I just feel like, why is it even a topic? I don't know.
Well, I think it's a topic because it's a topic everywhere at the moment. Doesn't matter who we got the stuff happening here with the bushfires. It's a topic here. You got all the protests that annoy everyone happening, whatever they're called. So, and then Hamilton calling them out, wanting to do something. So, like, I don't think it's like, this is like, I don't know why I know you're not against it, but like, it's not real. Like, and I understand there's the trucks and the planes. They admit that, but
and then they
want to offset what they can't change by stop using plastics and use renewable energy. And where they can't, change things up straight away, they want to then offset it. And you do that by, trees is just a simple example for one. There's plenty of other ways to do it, though.
Well, even just these cars are all hybrid, as we know now, so the batteries that these cars have to carry, and then it's always a misconception that, because it's a hybrid car, it's so much better for the environment. But is it? Because the car itself, I don't want to get into that side of things, because I don't think that's what's important. But if we're talking about being carbon neutral, it needs to be this. It is part of the conversation, because just to produce these batteries, the amount of carbon footprint that's left behind.
Yeah, but that like they've talked about this, and there's plans to offset everything involved, including the manufacturing process, to zero. So if they can achieve that, that's a good thing. It doesn't. If we are creating carbon, making the batteries, if we can then offset that and take away the carbon we've put into the world, then you can keep making the batteries, and there shouldn't be an issue. And F1 will probably be the leader in creating change everywhere. I don't know. It could happen.
I think F1 should just move away from batteries and let's go to solar-powered cars.
Solar-powered? Oh.
Yeah,
Did you see the solar-powered car that caught fire that last couple of months ago? They were doing that big race across Australia.
Oh, yeah, that one that they do every year, yeah.
Hey, if you're going to go solar power and go just as quick, I mean, it's not going to change overnight because obviously it's a internal combustion engine and that's what Formula One is. But I think it's hard to fathom, but there will be one day where it's going to have to be a lot like Formula E or rely on a synthetic fuel. So anyway, I just think a lot of people were, I don't know, just... Like I get your side of the story and your frustrations and like the sort of, this doesn't make any sense type thing because we're still doing this, but it's better than nothing.
Even when I say that, I'm not saying let's not do anything. I'm just saying the big announcement, the big hoopla about it. And
do you think it's just a PR stunt? Is that what you're trying?
Pretty much,
right. I think it is too, but I don't think it's a bad thing. Anyway, I just got the impression a lot of people are like, this is going to destroy Formula One as we know it. And I'm like, no, I don't think it will.
No, I think they're already doing that stuff. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's just to me, it's like, what's the point of this, Okay, whatever. That's me.
It's all right. Let us know what you think. Chuck your comments in the sections on Facebook, Stitcher, Podbean. We'd love to hear about all the 5 lights we've talked about tonight. But that wraps up the main portion. So we're on to the checkered flag, and we can talk briefly about a few things. There was obviously Sainz getting third place was a huge thing for the sport.
It was a really big thing, and it was almost, for me, it's a bittersweet moment. I mean, did we mention the name of our podcast at the start of this? It's smoothest operator of my life. It was Sainz on the radio talking to his engineers, and that's when he thought he only finished 4th.
Yeah.
So he was stoked with the 4th, 20th to 4th. Just wow, what a drive.
And they even did the mock podium thing. The whole team went up there and gave him the trophy, and it was pretty funny.
I'm really glad that they did that, because at least he got something to actually, a couple of photos of him actually on that Brazilian podium, etc. But I just feel like, we're talking about consistency of stewards and whatever just earlier, but in a situation like this, I feel like
it took too long.
Yeah, if it's going to affect the podium, let's make that call before the podium is announced, because I really feel bad for Sainz. As happy as I am for him for grabbing his first podium, it's kind of like it's bittersweet, because he really wasn't up there. He didn't get to enjoy it with the other drivers. We could have had the podium with Gasly, Sainz, and Verstappen there. That's the podium that should have happened with the result that the stewards gave after the fact.
It's a good point. If there's a situation that's going to affect the podium, just postpone that.
So, as you know, I already said that I wouldn't have given Hamilton a 5-second penalty. And if I was in that steward's room, 100%, once the podium's done and dusted, I would have done my darndest to convince every other steward in there that we can't give a penalty now. Let's just leave the podium the way it is.
Yeah, fair enough. I'd have to agree. I didn't like the way they did it, but that's how they did it.
And speaking of podiums, what about the other first-time podium getter, Gasly, eh?
Oh, the weird thing about that is, now that he's had a podium, everyone's like, Helmut Marko stuffed up. They should have kept... I'm like, no, stop being F1 knee-jerks, because that doesn't automatically give him back that bloody spot. Did you forget what he's been doing the last 19 races?
Look, the problem is...
Good on him, though, for second.
We've said it before. Gasly was awesome in the Toro Rosso last year, which is why he got the drive in the Red Bull.
Yeah,
When
he
he
was
got
awesome
to
at
the Red Bull,
Interlagos.
when he got to Red Bull, it was a case of like Perez going to McLaren a bit too early. I think he just was there. He was out of his league. He couldn't handle whatever it was. He couldn't handle the car, or he couldn't handle the pressure.
Yeah.
Something just wasn't right. Like
It was like everything's turned up to 11, and he just
he
wasn't
couldn't
ready for
handle it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, he's been put back to the Toro Rosso. It's almost like, oh, I'm back home.
Yeah.
You know, after a big holiday. And he's loving being back at home, and just wow, this weekend, like he qualified best of the rest. I think he was 7th on the grid,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then he finished second. And not only did he finish second, as we mentioned earlier, he out-dragged Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes,
That
like
froth.
half a car length. That's what it was, an actual full-on drag race. If you haven't seen it, it was an actual drag race between a Toro Rosso
And a Mercedes.
Mercedes. Coming out of that last turn, if anyone's laying their bets, 100% they would have all put it on Hamilton. Yet Gasly, in his Honda Toro Rosso, came out trumps.
I
Like, wow.
I couldn't believe it that he kept the car in front of that Silver Arrow. I was like, what? Am I in an alternate universe? Because this doesn't happen.
That's right.
Yeah, so it was so good to see. But guys, if you're out there saying Helmut Marko should have kept Gasly, you're wrong. You're just wrong. No,
100%.
don't debate me. You're wrong. Stop getting angry in the comments. You're wrong.
That's it. I totally 100% agree.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, he deserved that second place and he worked his ass off for it. But that doesn't automatically mean he needs a Red Bull seat. Or he deserves it.
He, like I said, I think he was just there too early. Now, in the future, I mean, we know Red Bull's history, right? If Albon, for some reason or other, disappoints us and can't handle it in the first half of the season, there's still a very good chance that Gasly could end up back in that seat.
Yeah.
We'll just have to wait and see.
We will. Yeah, anything else you'd like to cover off?
Just the two little quick things was the one thing that I did want to mention which made me laugh was I actually had a chuckle to myself when I heard Vettel's engineer, or his race engineer Adano, come on and say that the tyres were looking good. Or he said they're looking peachy. And the reason that's funny is because in the last race, when they asked Vettel, how are the tyres, give us some information, and he told them that it was peachy, and tyres are peachy, and apparently they had no idea what that meant, and after the race, Vettel had to explain to them what he meant by peachy, so then this time, the engineer used it back on Vettel, and it was actually a funny moment, I thought.
I didn't hear that one. Actually, one I wrote down on my notes, I forgot to put on the screen, was, do you remember seeing the tyre graphic come up for Hamilton and Verstappen?
Oh, yeah.
Why did Verstappen have 20-30% less tyre wear or performance than what Hamilton had? That didn't make any sense. On the same tyre, on the same track, for the same amount of laps, but apparently Hamilton had better tyres at that moment.
Because these people know that the Mercedes just chews the tyres so much more than that Red Bull. They've got the inside information.
Yeah, I don't know. Did you see that? Because that infuriated me when it popped up.
I did, but I pointed the exact same thing out to you in the last race when Lewis Hamilton was showing only 10% on his rear tyres when he had pitted after whoever the one they were showing against. And I said to you, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah. But this time it was at the same time, not like even a lap separated. It was Verstappen and Hamilton like layered on top of each other on the screen at the same time. So it didn't. Yeah, get rid of it. Get rid of it. It's freaking.
Don't trigger me now with those graphics.
No, get rid of it, Liberty or Formula One management. It's just. I get you trying cool new things, but that's not. You can. Things are allowed to fail. All right, you don't have to make them work. All right. All right. Well, that finishes checkered flag. Let's get on to the S3 awards. 2 points to the superstar, 1 to the surpriser, and 2 get taken away to the stinker. Who have you allocated your S3 points to tonight.
Wow, we had so many choices too as well here. Max Verstappen did get driver of the day, the official driver of the day, but you know how I feel about that I feel like it's just more of a popularity vote than a real driver of the day, because for me, I could not go past Gasly as driver of the day.
Fair enough.
I've given him so much shit early on in the year with the Red Bull, but this weekend he deserves 2 points.
He certainly does, but I'm giving mine to Verstappen. I don't usually follow the driver of the day, but that's where I've landed.
Fair enough.
I don't know. He got the pole. He was quickest. He did what he had to do. He made the overtakes happen. He confused Crofty even. Or Albon managed to do that, but
well, he definitely had a great weekend, as we discussed early on. But
I can't take it away from him. I can't.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Who was your surpriser for your 1 point?
Oh, this was so hard, but given Sainz started 20th, I'm giving it to him.
And he was also my surpriser. So
Yeah.
I've got Sainz as 1 point, and so do you. We shall be adding these up after Abu Dhabi, and it will be very interesting where these drivers end up on our Lights Out F1 table.
Yeah. I thought what was really interesting was at the halfway point, we had more points for Albon than Gasly, so it sort of backed up their decision to drop Gasly. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just thought that was very interesting to see that sort of
That we've
match
got our
up.
finger on the pulse.
Yeah, so to speak. Your stinker for Interlagos.
Mate, my stinker for Interlagos, I kind of just wanted to give it to both the Ferrari boys. But
Oh, yeah.
you know, but I'm not going to give -1 or -1. But to be honest, I landed on Hulk.
Yeah, so did I.
Like, I could not look past him because,
Of where Ricciardo
dis-
finished?
as we discussed, Ricciardo, not only did he get a 5-second penalty, he had to pit. He had a 5-second penalty. They had to change his front wing.
Yeah.
And he still finished miles ahead of Hulkenberg in 6th place.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what happened to Hulkenberg.
I remember last year when Ricciardo got announced as going to Renault, I remember there was quite a few people saying that, I think might be a bit surprised, coming up against Hulkenberg. I think he's going to, have his work cut out trying to, beat him. But
Had his work cut out with Verstappen, I think.
yeah, I think it's clear as day. If it wasn't in leading up to this year, but just this, he's not even in the same league.
No.
Hulkenberg is retiring out of F1. He announced it this weekend that he won't be on the grid next week.
I called it. I called it when it happened. Just want to...
And I personally, again, I probably put some people offside, but I've always thought Hulkenberg is a really overrated driver. I don't get the Hulk hype.
He's a nice guy. But yeah, after probably being a little bit more critical of everyone this season, I haven't seen much results, if anything, from Hulkenberg at all. So, yeah, I just don't see where they say that he deserves the reputation he's got. He might be a lot better at DTM. I think that's got to be where he's going.
He hasn't announced where he's going, but he did announce that he won't be on the Formula 1 grid.
Yeah, no, I just want to... I called that. I totally called that. Anyway.
You also called Bottas.
Yeah, I'm allowed to get things
2019.
wrong.
I thought, just something I remember.
Don't worry, I don't forget it, but when you get things right, I'm going to shout it from the top.
Yeah, I know.
S3's
Now,
rookie watch.
your rookie of the weekend. Who did you give your 1 point to this weekend?
I can't go past Albon.
Fair enough.
I mean, I know you've sort of applied blame for the crash he got into, but I didn't see it like that, and I thought at that point he was just doing exactly what he needed to do in that Red Bull, and yeah, it's a shame. Anyway, he gets my rookie.
I gave it to Giovinazzi.
Yeah, where did Giovinazzi come?
I believe he finished
in the
fifth.
points. Oh shit, he did finish that high. I didn't realise Kimi was 4th.
Yeah, both the Alphas, 4th and 5th, mate.
Wow, good on him.
You know the result of this weekend? It's a quick sidetrack here, but it reminds me a lot of old school F1 for the older generation who have been following Formula 1 for a long time, where and the reason we get these mixed results is because of retirements, and that used to happen a lot in the old days, which doesn't happen animore.
No, stick around a lot longer.
I remember sitting up, we used to watch these races, and then all of a sudden Gerhard Berger and his Ferrari his engine would blow up, and almost immediately in the next lap John Alesi's Ferrari would blow up. There's 2 Ferraris gone, and then something would happen to one of the McLarens, and that's why we had a lot of mixed podiums. When people say, we need mixed podiums again like we used to have in the old days. Yes, granted, we used to have it in the old days, but not because the cars were so much more equal, just because reliability was a bigger problem in the old days.
Well, they had an engine every race, so they could just crank it to the max, and if it blew,
now here we are this weekend when both the Ferraris are out of play, basically both the Mercs are out of play, and look at the results we've got. It's like, we go, wow!
It was good. It was good. Maybe we'll get it next year. Maybe we'll get something in Abu Dhabi, you don't know. But talking about Abu Dhabi, it's time for the predictions for there. This one's going to be pretty hard, I think. I'm going to have to go back and have a look at what happened last season. Surely Hamilton won it.
Are you going to give Dan Ricciardo the win for the last race of the year?
Oh, I'd love to give him that, but I just don't think he's going to do that. But I'm gonna give it to Hamilton for Abu Dhabi. I just don't think I can look past him at the moment.
I haven't heard. Was Bottas's engine blown, or was it some other issue? Was it a turbo issue or something? Because I'm just wondering, is he going to have a grid penalty? Because I'm putting him on top.
Oh yeah, that'd be nice. No, I don't know what happened. Sorry to Bottas. Like the technical reason. But I'm then going to put Verstappen in second.
Maxi.
Maxi. He might even get a win. But second. And then I think
you're going
to have to chuck. I'm going to give Albon his first podium.
Ooh, nice one. Fourth?
Oh. Let's go Leclerc.
And your fifth place.
Fifth place. Jesus. I want to go Sainz because I think Vettel's going to do something stupid here and crash himself out. Or Leclerc's going to do something stupid and it's going to ruin Vettel's race or something. Something's going to happen.
Okay, I'm going Bottas for the win, Vettel to be second, Hamilton third, Max fourth, and Albon fifth.
Pretty good bets. But I beat you this week because I got 1 point.
I'm going to tally those points up too, but unfortunately you've embarrassed me with these tips. I think you've just really... You keep picking up the one, and I keep getting the zeros.
That's all you need. That's all you need.
You've been doing well. I'm going to definitely have to up my game next year in both the Fantasy League and this tipping.
Oh, I tell you what, I changed my team out. Not the whole team, I just got rid of... Who did I get rid of? I got rid of Magnussen for Ricciardo. I did it 10 minutes before qualifying started. And
what a good race to do that on too.
I know, and I thought I accidentally forgot to hit save because when I opened up my phone and went back to the browser, it still had hit save to make your team official or something. And I was like, you've got to be kidding. But it all went through, and that's why I had such a good weekend.
You got 180 points.
I know, and I'm up to 5th place overall. I jumped a huge amount up in the league.
I am nowhere. I got 104 points. So, like I said, I can't even catch you with one race to go. You are gone. But
it had me fifth.
in the actual,
down to 7th again.
But on the league, the Bethany and East Coast Autos in second place. I haven't got it up in front of me right now, but I think there's only like 20 points between them. So it's definitely on the line for the last race.
Yeah, Bethany's got 3,169. Dominator X has got 3,145. So 24 points.
So yeah, that's, if depending on which way they go with the team and drivers, it could be a very interesting finish.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get the top 5. But I'm 7th overall. I said 5th. It says 7th. It must have updated since I checked it. So
yeah, I'm like 12th.
But I've got a wild card to use, so maybe I'll chuck it on for the last race and just hope for the best.
Change your whole team out.
I might do that. But yeah, I made one change, and it was such a good change to make, getting rid of K-Mag for Ricciardo, who I think I kept Sainz as my turbo too. So. Ching ching.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
You've done well, son.
I've done all right. Sim racing esports news. Let's wrap up the FNL1 series. We've had the F2 final play out last week at Coda because we didn't get to do it the scheduled week because Codemasters had their servers down. Thank you very much for that.
Yep. So we wrapped that up last week. It was in Coda and. It was actually good racing as usual. The F2s have been great viewing all season long. I mean...
Yeah, it's just a good hour of race.
We say it pretty much every podcast. I mean, it's just 1 hour on a Thursday night and it's great viewing. Once again, they didn't disappoint at America and BP took out the feature race and Mike finished second and Not Equal, who is some might know... as Marcus, who used to race with us, and he's back in the F2 fold.
Or The Kid was his old name.
And he finished third, that's right. And in the sprint race, BP crashed out.
He did.
And Mike won. He took his first victory. And Not Equal finished second, and they had a great ding-dong battle between them. It was really good racing.
Almost the entire 13, 12 laps, whatever it was. And he chucked one up the inside at the last corner. And he almost, and they were dragging. It was basically Hamilton and Gasly to the line. And I think penalties got Not Equal at the end of it because I think he just got ahead. It was so tight. So
if
tight.
You're sitting around at an airport or if you're waiting around and you're just bored, just grab your phone, jump onto our Facebook page on FNL1eSports or Demo 1. You'll also find it there. Just watch the replay. It's a great race to watch.
Yeah, it's on Facebook or YouTube. It might still be up on Twitch. They don't stay around forever, but we do go there. I'm thinking of going to Mixer soon, so you can even find us on Mixer at some point.
And in that sprint race, we had Fly Swatter, another newcomer to the fold. He got his first podium there. He finished third, so well done to him. Well done to all the podium winners.
Yeah, and that was the final, so we got the results for the championship.
We had the
F1 guys, which you call the veterans, and then you had the rookie guys as well. So we sort of split the championship between the veterans and the rookies. So I'll let you read them out.
Yeah, we're going to change it up for the next season, and we've pretty much come to a consensus that in Season 2 of the F2s, with the F1 drivers who are involved in it, they won't be qualifying. So kind of like what Formula 1 was talking about doing, we're going to have the F1 drivers start at the back of the grid of the feature race, and they're going to have to fight their way through. So you should make it a little bit more interesting and a little bit more challenging for them.
Yeah.
BP wrapped up the championship on 337 points, so he was just a clear winner there, ahead of Mike, who actually had a...
I thought Hawks would get second here, but...
No, well, Mike had a great haul of points in that last round with the win in the feature race and a second... Sorry, with the winning the sprint race and a second in the feature.
Yep.
So it was very close because he finished on 217 points and Hawks was on 212 in third.
Oh, 5 points. Wow.
It was so close, see? But that was because Hawks couldn't make last week's race, so that's what cost him, you see?
Ah, damn it. He'll be killing himself for that one.
Yep, so Mike got him there, so he's got the bragging rights. And out of the rookies, the F2 drivers, the newcomers, Lukey, he led them there and he finished up on, how many points was he? He finished up on 150 points. Well done to Lukey. And the guy who he beat in was Danos. They are both going to be promoted to F1 now, so they'll be racing with us in the F1s on Friday nights. And I'm pretty certain that they will be continuing the F2 league as well in Season 2.
Yeah, so, if you want to get involved with that, there's a Discord link on the FNL1 eSports Facebook. Join that. Let us know your name, the simulators you got, the games, F1, a set of course, or whatever you got, and we'll get you a seat for Formula 2 when we go Season 2.
All the links are always on this podcast description there with our Facebook pages, YouTube channels, Discord link. It's all there. So just jump in, guys. If you want to have a crack at the F2s or even the F1s, let us know. Let me know. I mean, we did have some, disappointingly, we had some guys just who started the season off with us and then they just decided to not show up anymore, which is, it's very disappointing on the part of the stream where you want to have some cars on the grid and you're not going to put up a stream with 5 or 6 cars. So, you need to have 12, 14 cars on the grid. So we're looking for some keen, solid drivers who, are reliable. So
you don't have to make every race, but at least let us know. Like a job.
If you're interested, let us know, yeah.
Let us know.
So I'll have to just finish off the F2 series by thanking all of the guys who did, see it right through and who turned up every week or most of the weeks and, put on a great show for everyone. And thank you, Josh, for streaming and commentating it for us.
Oh, it was fun. I want to do it again. So let's make sure Season 2 happens because it was good. I think it was really good format. And it was really good to watch. It was a manageable race. You could just, like you said, you could sit down on a Thursday, Friday night and just watch something that was purely entertaining.
So that is there. So now that's going to move us on to the FNL1 eSports F1 League. Our last race was in COTA in America.
Yep.
Our old mate Hawks in his Renault took that one out ahead of the newcomer Buschuk, which was a great race by him, and he finished second.
Yeah, it's a good finish from him.
He actually came from the F2 league.
Yep.
We were running short on numbers, and he stepped up and has he's secured his seat on an F1 drive now. I mean, there he is there on second on the podium at COTA, and he also got the driver of the day vote by 50% of the fan votes. So we always have a driver of the day voting, which goes up on our Facebook page. The link goes up on a Friday night about 11 p.m. And it's always there till, I usually have it there till about midday Monday. Yeah, so well done to Buschuk. And Mike continued his great week and finished third. So I had a great battle with him at the end there. I even tried a dive in the last corner. And
yeah,
it was a great battle. So I finished fourth, but
you were the racist I've seen you for a while.
Yeah, it was a good race. I enjoy that track a lot.
Right. Well, that always helps when you enjoy the circuit you're racing on.
Yep. So that was our F1 race this week. We're in Brazil.
Yeah, Brazil. On Friday.
Yeah. Let's see if we can make it exciting or even more than the real race we just had.
I'm sure we can. We always manage. Now, I've got a lot of extra eSport news to go through. And it's funny. I always find that none of these big leagues promote this stuff, but there's so much going on. So I'll get through it quickly. First big one happened just the other day. The supercars content all over the internet. Doesn't matter if it was a gaming thing. Our FNL1 Bathurst race got copyright striked. Forza races got striked. Anything with a V8 in it, supercars were claiming copyright, but apparently they'd changed the content ID setting, and it was picking up everything, including games as well.
They must have taken the F1 ID,
yeah,
just applied it to supercars, because that sounds very much like Formula One.
But it really makes me wonder how this content ID works. If they just change something, that all of a sudden it's now picking up games as well. So,
and how long ago is it when we did Bathurst? That's like, so it's even going back and just picking up everything. That was, when was it?
That was a few months ago now. A couple of months.
September, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was in September sometime. So
I got a message saying it's being copyrighted from supercars, but on Twitter they said, yes, this is a mistake. We changed something and we're trying to fix it. And they did eventually, but so it was good to hear them own up to it, because a lot of the times you never hear what's happening. So yeah, they just changed some. If you had that issue, that's what it was. It should be all fixed now. Secondly, the GT Sport Monaco World Finals are on this weekend, 4 a.m. I think they start, for the Nations semi-final, and then the final, and then there's only the manufacturers final. And Hezal, who we all saw in controversy with Igor Fraga a few FIA, was it at Red Bull, I think? Remember, where they were racing at Spa?
Yep. That'll be on the GT Sport channel, yeah? On YouTube.
Yeah, they put it on YouTube and Facebook, everywhere. Hezal has said that it's his last attempt to become champion, because this time next year he'll be studying and in exams. So
he's retiring.
Well, at least for a year, apparently.
Taking a sabbatical.
Yeah, so that's his goal. Matt Simmons, you might know him. He's also an FIA World Finalist, and I have him on Sundays with the Race on Oz League. Mint GTR, I think he's PSN. He actually went and raced the Subaru TCR with Milden Motorsport over the weekend. So he had a few top 10 finishes, and he was happy with that, and he's looking for hopefully a drive in 2020. So this is a guy that's gone from virtual
sim racing,
to real world. That's
a lot of people are loving that TCR series. I mean, it hasn't quite, ignited my.
It's got a lot of potential.
Yeah, so I was just kind of keeping a distant eye on it, but yes. I haven't really dove into it yet.
Yeah, but Matt Simmons went and had a drive there last weekend. And then Lay Sabino from Malaysia, he qualified second in the WTCR Ascaro eSports final, which qualified him for a race in the Golf GTI for the Macau Touring Cup, and he finished P12 out of 35 drivers. So another big win for a sim driver.
It's becoming more and more, isn't it? This sim to real.
Yeah.
Virtual to real.
There was 2 stories over the weekend. And then there was, for the SFR GT Challenge, if you follow all the leagues we do in Demo 1, Full Attack Motorsports is withdrawn from the season, unfortunately. You can read their, description or reasoning on their Facebook if you want to go have a look. I didn't write the name of the F1 eSports driver, but he was ranting about F1 game physics, how it acted like a hovercraft, and how the physics sort of changed between trucks, which I thought was just big, because we've always sort of criticised Codemasters for that sort of things, but to see an eSports, like he's one of the pro drivers, sit here and publicly criticise it, it says something, I think. I don't know what you think.
You don't remember the name, who it was, because I didn't see that story. But
it's not a story. This is all stuff I'm reading on Twitter.
On Twitter, okay.
So it's one of the Veloce guys.
I was going to say it's probably one of them, because they're very active on Twitter.
Yeah, but wouldn't you think it's like this sort of should be putting the fire in Codemasters' belly to...
Oh, you would hope so, man. But, I mean, even Lando Norris is... especially early on, spoke up against Codemasters and the feeling of the F1 game, but even that didn't fire them up to do something about it. So I'm sure, for lack of a better way of describing it, I'm sure they don't care about an esports driver flapping his gums.
I know, but they should.
I know they should, 100%.
Anyway, so yeah, I thought that was interesting. And then What sort of backed that up was when Lando and Verstappen were being interviewed before the race. I think it was before the race. They were going over the track and their times in qualifying, and Verstappen just mentioned racing on iRacing on Interlagos, and I was like, "You've said it a million times. These guys should be mentioning, oh, I played it on Formula One, not freaking iRacing." So it's just another lost opportunity.
How many times I've told you this? Like Codemasters, Formula One. It's the official game. You think you'd at least, even if it's not the truth, you'd at least coach your drivers to talk about the F1 game rather than a rival sim racing game, which is actually a lot better than your Formula One game.
Yeah. So, yeah, this was on the Sky broadcast. It was just a passing comment, but I think it says a lot about where F1 from Codemasters needs to get. It's not there yet, and clearly not. And then there was the 19-year-old, what's his name? His last name's Galisson. He won the Logitech G Challenge, which then gets him a spot with McLaren Sim Team, and
another one to the McLaren Sim Team. Jeez.
Yeah. The races, they were done in Las Vegas. It says here the grand finals. They did 4 races, which included 10 minutes of qualifying and between 8 to 10 laps races, totaling 20 minutes maximum racing against each other in simulation rigs, fittest with the latest Logitech, blah, blah, blah. And it was officiated by Max Pappas. And, yeah, so...
Oh, yeah, I know that name.
Yeah, he's Indy 500 steward, and he used to be a driver himself. So, yeah, Mr. Gillison, he's 19, and he won that Logitech series using Project Cars 2. And then finally, I don't know if you play Race Room, you might have seen the Volkswagen IDR challenge that was up for months. We had the final play out. Mark Gasner of Williams eSports won that. So, there was a lot happening through the esports world. That was just the best of it. But I'm always like just surprised how much they don't advertise this stuff, because there's some big money being thrown around and some big jobs.
I mean, Williams, you just mentioned Mark Gasner from Williams eSports there. They're not doing so much on the F1 track, as we know, but they're very active in esports, and they've actually got quite a good esports team together. Like, be it the Formula One, they're kind of dipping their toes in a lot, as a lot of these teams are. Well, look at McLaren. I mean, they're going to have enough drivers in their sim team to have a whole F1 grid.
Oh, totally. But I think before we end tonight's thing, I just want to ask you a quick question. I've been thinking about with the I had it on my lips while you were talking. Then what were we talking about? Esports, Williams, Volkswagen,
sim racing.
I'll edit this bit down. I need to figure out what it was. There was a video out which involves some of the guys from the F1 eSports currently in 2019. And I don't want to take it away from them, like what they're doing, but a lot of them were talking, because I think these guys were the Renault guys, and they were like, we want to bring the team back to where they deserve to be. They're talking, like, to me, they're talking as if, like, yes, they're part of the Renault team, but at the same time, they also, I feel like they're talking like they're affecting what happens in the real Formula One. And
oh, really?
Yeah, I just get this. I don't want to. I love esport, and I love everything about it, but just the way that we're talking about, I want to bring Renault back to being champions again. I'm sort of sitting there going, do you get what I'm trying? Like, it just doesn't feel right.
I didn't see that particular video, but I did. The Renault guys were the ones that I said to you last podcast or the one before, that they spend like 11 hours a day practicing for their esports races.
They use exactly the same rig as well, because they're like, that gives you an advantage, like in down to the box and the TV. Like,
But what I'm saying is, maybe was your interpretation of what they were saying, like you're relating it to the real world, whereas are they saying they want to bring them back to being champions, as in the esports, in the virtual world, or do you think they were definitely
I just
referring it to the real life?
Well, I'd like it to be clarified because I could be, you could be right, but it just, to me, it felt like they were. They felt like they were an extension of the Formula One team.
No, well, they're not. So-
No, and that's the problem I had with it. I'm like, you're two separate entities. Yes, you're employed by. I assume they're employed by Renault because they must be getting